Welcome back. In this video, we're going to continue to explore sexual reproduction and why it leads to greater variation. So in this lesson, we will continue to follow our lovely Dr. Bravo as she takes off in her research to answer this question. So we're going to engage with a reading. Again, if you need to pause and reread the text, feel free to do so. Sexual reproduction, a source of variation. In sexual reproduction, genetic material from two different parent cells combine. In the case of humans, egg and sperm cells have just 23 chromosomes each. That's half as many chromosomes as a regular cell. Through the process of fertilization, egg and sperm join to make a cell with 46 chromosomes. 23 pairs. It is important to keep in mind that each species has its own specific number of chromosomes. However, before the egg and sperm meet, something interesting happens inside each cell. Inside the cells that will become either the sperm or egg, chromosomes pair up. Pieces of DNA from one chromosome switch places with pieces of DNA from another chromosome. This shuffling of genetic material or recombination of DNA is an important cause of genetic variation seen among offspring. To gain a better understanding of recombination, Dr. Bravo decides to use a Lego model. So watch the video to explore how this model helps her visually represent this concept. Now I will go ahead and play this video from Science News on recombination so that you can see this model in action.
DNA contains the instructions for building your body. At the molecular level, it's shaped like a twisted ladder. Inside your cells, these DNA ladders are arranged in long strands called chromosomes. People usually have 23 pairs of chromosomes. Half of each pair comes from your mother and the other half from your father. But long before egg meets sperm, something interesting happens to your parents' DNA. Inside the cells that become eggs or sperm, chromosomes pair up. Pieces of DNA from one chromosome switch places with pieces of DNA from the other chromosome. This swapping or recombination of DNA is important. It injects diversity into the mix, and it ensures that you get just one chromosome from each parent.
All right, guys, so now that we've gathered that data on recombination, let's go ahead and tackle on an activity. So Dr. Bravo is trying to figure out why sexual reproduction leads to greater variation. And there are two competing claims. Claim A states sexual reproduction leads to greater variation because genes from each parent are shuffled before being passed down to the offspring. And claim B states sexual reproduction leads to greater variation because all genes come from one parent and mutate, often before being passed down to the offspring. So I want you to circle the claim that you agree with and then support your claim with evidence from the text, including a quote, and evidence from the model and video. At this point, you can go ahead and work on this activity. Pause the video in the meantime, and when you're ready to continue, press play. All right, guys, I hope you really put your knowledge at work here with this activity. And now we're going to move forward with a little throwback, as I promised you. If you've watched my other videos, I always do a little throwback so you don't forget what we went over before. So here is a little review on variables and interpreting data so we don't forget. And variables are foundational in science. So let's go ahead and explore them in light of sexual reproduction. So Dr. Benoit, an understudy of Dr. Bravo, is exploring sexual reproduction in organisms. Prior to collecting data, Dr. Benoit predicts that a female egg would have a greater number of chromosomes in comparison to male sperm. The results from his analysis of human sex cells are recorded in the table to the right. So here's our lovely table, and feel free to use the I-squared method from our previous video as well to interpret it. And I'm going to go ahead and read some questions, and then I'm going to pause to give you some time to answer them. So question 1. The female sex cell is referred to as the blank. The male sex cell is referred to as the. During sexual reproduction, how many parental sex cells are involved? What percent of genes does each parent contribute to the offspring? What is Dr. Benoit's original hypothesis? What are we comparing? The independent variable. What data was collected? The dependent variable. And based on the data collected, was Dr. Benoit's hypothesis supported? Finally, we want to make sure that you give us some evidence from the bar graph, or that you provide some evidence from the bar graph to support your answer for number 8. When you have completed your questions, press play for a review. So the female sex cell for number 1 is the egg. Okay, we're talking about in humans, this is the egg. The male sex cell is the sperm. And there are 2 parental cells or sex cells involved in sexual reproduction for number 3. What percent of the genes does each parent contribute to the offspring? That is 50%. What was Dr. Benoit's original hypothesis? Well, originally, Dr. Benoit predicted that the female egg would have a greater number of chromosomes in comparison to the male sperm. For 6, we are comparing egg versus sperm, so the type of sex cell, that's the independent. And for number 7, the dependent is the number of chromosomes. For number 8, based on our data table, Dr. Benoit's hypothesis was not supported. And for number 9, our evidence for that is that both sperm and egg contribute the same number of chromosomes, 23 each. All right, guys, great job on that throwback activity where we integrated variables with our learnings on sexual reproduction. You guys have been doing so amazing. I am so proud of you, and I wish you the best of luck on your work. Take care. Bye.